Sairam and welcome to a fresh new episode of Chai with Sai. I'm sure all of you are excited and wondering what is the topic for today is and who will be our guest speakers. But before I introduce the topic for today, let's introduce our speakers for today. First of all, we have Brother Prasath with us.
Sairam.
And Brother Saiji with us.
Sairam.
So, in their own words, in their own thought, let us now ask them to introduce themselves. So, we'll start with Brother Prasath. Can you introduce yourself? What do you do for a living? And also, one interesting thing about yourself.
Okay, so there's two questions definitely. So for living, I so-called cari makan, right? So I think currently I'm an engineer in Toyota, all right, and that have been now almost 8 years plus. Proceeding after my previous experience in the previous company lah, obviously. So that have been a growth of career, I would say in manufacturing area. So that's how my career life have been. So second question, I think interesting. That's something to think about for me to always discover what do I like and what is interesting about me. But I used to share to many, especially when it comes to introduction session, when we have satsangs, right? This, what is interesting about you is always a nice way of having icebreaker, because you remember a person more than just the name of your first perspective. So I used to share something I felt, whether interesting or not, but I felt it's something weird about me. But I like it, where I love driving. Alright, driving is something that I call it as my most best quality time with myself. Alright, so I've experienced driving everywhere for either service or activities, side programs, or even work, without realizing that I traveled 3-4 hours without even turning on the radio, all alone. You know, so that much of time spent with yourself, you know. So I think that is interest, if I could say. But otherwise, from reflecting from my childhood, another fact which not many knows, I kept it to myself. Since primary to secondary or even university, my only motivation to go to the institute, to school, is actually sports more than the education. So I'm more excited to go, even though it's just 1 week of sports session in school, right? That's the day of my day. I go for it, whether I go to study or not. So that's the area of interest I can think or reflect upon, which is sports and driving.
I think completely opposite to me. I don't like driving, I don't like so very interesting. Thank you for sharing, Prasath.
Yeah, sure.
So same question to a person who I know that has a lot of interesting things to share. So let's ask the same question to Saiji.
Okay, Sairam, I'm Saiji. Currently, I'm a head of sales in a company called Rentwise. It's more focused on a sustainable concept, and that's the job. So what's interesting about me is I always like to see things in the opposite point of view. So whenever the whole crowd goes towards one direction, I'll always choose to take the opposite direction and curious about what's the other side of it. So all the time I don't fit in. I'll always try to take the other rough road and explore what's stored there and all. And to be frank, right, that is very much spiritual for me. It's more of a self-discovery when I take an own road, create the own path and stuff like that. So that's one of my passion. And yeah, I'm a foodie. I love eating, tasting food. I used to travel a lot, my whole family. And recently, one of the greatest blessings for me is cycling. Because cycling is one thing, you see, I always believe is our body is a temple of God. So we cannot neglect that. So cycling is that moment which I detach from everything, like from all the roles that I have as a husband, as a father, as this, as that. So cycling is all me and the cycle. So I just express, I was sharing right now, I love cycling long distance and so on. So I've done 70 km so far. I'm trying to break my record. So these are the things which I really enjoy doing. Right.
Okay, right. Interesting, right? So two different guests in their own way, very different in the way how they think. Yeah. So that's why we call them to this session in particular. So before even I introduce the topic still, let's keep the suspense going for a little longer. So we'll play a short game of sorts. Okay, so the game is rapid fire.
Right.
Okay, so I'll ask you a question.
I knew that was coming. Rapid fire somewhere.
Where's the fire?
This is rapid fire. So you need to answer, but you need to answer in a funny way. Okay,
Funny way.
in a funny way.
Ah,
So basically, the person sitting beside you need to laugh
Ayyo.
to your response. Okay, laugh means okay, you
Even
get
if
1
it's
point.
not a joke, laugh it.
Laugh it, laugh.
No, the situation is pretty standard, but the way how you reply, the answer should make it funny lah. Okay, ready? Okay.
I hope you all filter wherever necessary.
Okay, so the first question lah. This is regular situation. I think all of us encounter lah. You're maybe Saiji and I will start with you.
Okay.
So you're standing in a queue, and an old uncle suddenly cuts in.
கடுப்பாயி ஏன் அங்கிள் ஏன் இந்த மாதிரி
Okay. Let's go. Okay. So you'll question back lah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's one. So another question. So almost similar also to Prasath Anna. When you're trying to switch lanes in a traffic jam,
Okay.
and suddenly when you're about to switch over, one motorcycle guy cuts in between.
I'll definitely feel for him because I'm most often to be the motorcyclist actually.
good one.
So I'll be like, okay, stop, that's me. Just be careful.
Okay, right. Okay, so next question to Saiji Anna.
Yeah.
Okay, when you come home very hungry after a long day for dinner, but all your siblings lah have finished all your food.
Okay. That would be the biggest disaster of my life. Of course, in reality, I'll show tantrum and then I'll just, okay, fine, I'll go out and find for my roti canai. So that's something which I will really do.
Okay, right. So next question to Prasath Anna. Okay, when your family member who is a new driver borrows your car. This one is a bit sensitive topic.
all the encyclopedia of advisors will come in to make sure he's equipped and till that person might even give up to drive now.
Okay, so usually you're very careful about the car, right?
Right.
Okay, last question to Saiji Anna. When your best friend wants to test your new waterproof phone and drops it into a tub of water.
Okay, so I'll take the complete opposite direction of the divine, since he's my best friend. But then, of course, after scolding and all, I'll forgive him. Like, it's okay, machan, let's carry on with the life. But I'll have my share of point to express myself. Then I'll say, Sai Ram, God, forgive me for that. Forgive me for that, Swami. Exactly.
Okay, right.
So a very realistic expression of phone lah, come on, how can I? Then I will come back to the senses and I'll say, okay, sorry machan, let's move on, kind of a thing. Yeah.
Okay, right. So when we look at all the situations, right, it's a constant struggle between expressing our so-called passion lah, whether it's anger or whatever emotion that we have, and also the reality. You don't want to offend the person. You need to take care of a lot of things.
Yeah.
So that brings us to today's topic, which is a very interesting one, which is passion versus expectation. Okay, so with that, right, so when you speak about passion, right, of course each of us have our own ambitions in life. When we grew up, when we are teenager, child, they keep on changing according to time.
Right.
But do you remember the first ambition that you ever had?
Yeah.
Saiji and
I remember I wanted to become a scientist. Like totally from nowhere. I really wanted to become a scientist. So I remember asking my father, what do you call being scientist in Tamil? And he was telling Vinyani. I don't know, that's what. Because I think from small I like discovering things, you see. But along the way, of course, it was something weird and nobody kind of pushed me through. It was all pushing me towards the typical doctor, that path, So yeah, so being a scientist was something which I really wanted to. And now I'm exploring, but not in a scientific way, but all the other way. But the characteristic of exploring to new things, questioning all the belief system, it's happening continuously. So yeah, that was my childhood dream, ambition. Okay.
Did it change over the time?
No, of course, now if it's a very tricky, good question, because now if I could relate, right, I am actually doing what I had as scientist before, exploring. But now what I do is I like to explore a lot of characteristic in histories. Like a weird thing, I like to compare Mahatma Gandhi and Hitler. What's their similarities? And if you go and Google it today, you'll find both of them has a lot of similarities in terms of characteristic. It's just that one choose two of them, one choose a different path, one choose another. but their thing. So this kind of thing I used to explore. When people say, don't do this, I'll always ask why. What's the the thing behind it? So probably I'm a scientist on my own way, not carrying the badge of a scientist, but exploring. Yes, yeah.
Okay, right. Thank
Project called Curiosity.
Curiosity, exactly. Right.
So some aspects of that scientist is still alive.
It's still there. It's still there.
Fire
It's still there.
Right. Same question to Prasath.
Okay, so the question was ambition, right?
Yeah, your first ambition.
First ambition.
I had a funny journey of discovering ambitions. So I recognized the word ambition also, I think only in standard 6. So that time I was forced to come up with an ambition because I don't even know what was happening, but I was chosen to be a Toko Murid and had to be giving my biodata or something. So ambition is one of these.
Okay.
So I don't know how it came. Lecturer was a term that I gave, probably from the family or what. So I have no connection to that. Okay. But probably also definitely something where I've been inspired in a way as a child, right? And because my family, extended family, many teachers. So probably that. And then moving forward, I definitely can't recall, but it was because my interest was, as I mentioned earlier, sports and driving definitely was much later, right, after Form 5. So it was moving just within that till the point where I think most critical stage of life to get admission is your SPM, right?
Yeah,
you got to choose already.
Tell
no
me about
choice
it. Tell me about it.
Like path, decision of your life like that, right? So and the why it was funny is everyone in my gang, I was in the top class with all of them. I used to be different simply because not because I choose, but it's just that I'm being myself I think so. So they from school they wanted to be prefects, and everyone were prefects. I was only one with white because I wasn't too keen of being that. Okay. And in the similar way, they are all they study and all that. I always on the padang . So whenever assignment or homework, I masuk with them and belajar sekali. Like that's how it was. Nice. And they all happens to be all towards being a doctor. Alright. So whether I had ambition or not, but because everyone into doctor, I hated being doctor. Okay. I didn't want to, not hated sorry for the wrong word, but I that was not even in my thought process. Although definitely family will have that kind of expectations. But good thing I feel I'm blessed that family did not put any expectation on that. So I was on a very free flow. Other than that, many teachers in the at home. So I had some idols of aunts and cousins who were into engineering. So, and they used to say engineering is quite wide scope, you can just swim around everywhere. So-called reality of engineering, right? So I thought, okay maybe engineering, we'll put it and we'll see. But we didn't have the leisure of choosing what my choice was. Okay. So I had to depend on my result. I had to make sure I get STPM or public university because we didn't have that facilities or I would say family didn't afford it . So I had to depend on my result. So despite sports or not, I somehow Swami's blessing, result turned out okay, survival, and then got STPM, okay, survived also, and got a public university. And to choose that public university, you have to be very careful, correct? You have to choose the top 8 or something where you can get as per your result. If you missed out, you won't get it. So analysis was going on, somehow engineering was available for my result, and I just put it as it is. So that's how it turned out. So how is that an ambition journey? It's more of a reality journey of what you have now, I think.
Much study you.
For top class,
much can become much study. Good good. Right. I'm completely opposite, bro. First class now, your 30 is quite a distance and so on. But yeah, quite interesting.
No, first class is my group of class, but I hang around with the back class.
All right. Nice.
Right. Do you think your first ambition is still, the fire is still there? Do you do some aspect of your first ambition, do you think?
Actually, to be frank, recently, after exploring about now 15 years of manufacturing, that seems to be triggering me a bit. But I realize it's because of my exposure in the Sai organization. Because in Sai organization, you start as a worker. I totally don't even speak those days. It's another different journey of my growth and organization with our Shakti program and all this that made me to start talking.
Correct.
there was a need to speak. Even until now, my family will be like, he doesn't talk, you know, talking to him rather than talk to wall is better. But when they will say, they'll tease me when you hold mic or when you come to sharing, I can't stop.
Yeah.
All right, but I noticed it started with the trigger of the need to talk.
Exactly.
All right, so the topic and satsang, it goes on as such. And that somehow brought a perspective of, I think maybe my capability is there, that I can describe or I can elaborate certain, the need of the topic. So that is triggering me, maybe teaching is a pathway to consider.
Right,
So probably that so-called innocently mentioning lecturer in 12 years old
It's,
is slowly started triggering me. Because I'm starting exploring where can I go, where maybe I can take up some masters or something and then try to step in.
Right. So interesting, right? So even if just out of the blue we say our first ambition is something totally insane, still some aspects of it, or at least why we came up with that is still alive, right?
Correct.
So in a way, right, and if you see, right, our first ambition is always something that's totally not logical, you know. There's no reasoning behind it, why we choose that. Right? Eventually, as years pass by, slowly we get into something else, or for different reasons, or need to cari makan lah, need to do this lah, need to get, social status, whatever other aspects comes into it. Why do you think people change from first ambition, which is totally insane, there's no logic to it, to something later on, why do you think that happens in people's life?
Okay, shall I go?
Yeah.
Okay, what I see is very clear. You see, as we go through life, right, everyone will have certain expectation or certain assumption of how the future is going to be, what is supposed to be, So they will have molds of idols, okay, and they want all of us to fit into this mold. So when you say something like, if you, maybe 20 years ago, if you say, I want to become a YouTuber, our parents will like literally hang us, okay, literally hang us. But now YouTuber is not a weird thing, it's a common thing, okay. So if you check all what's happening right now, you can make a living out of it, for an example. So people have perception of how future should be based on the current reality. And second thing is based on statistics of what could be. But if you see great minds like Steve Jobs, for an example, he doesn't follow statistic. He visualize customer experience and then they create a product. So this is on a commercial perspective. So if you see all the great minds, they don't follow the statistics, they don't follow. They pave the path accordingly, but it's not an easy journey. So to answer your question, in my opinion, right, people have perceptions, people have box of how the world should be, how an individual should be, and then as the kids come by, they think this is the box that fits in. So the kid might be a triangle, but we'll force him to fix into a box. So that's how his creativity gets shut down. Like for an example, it's so weird, we are contrast but we're the same, He wanted to become a lecturer, I want to become a scientist. But now, I'm doing the same thing, but not in the head of scientists. I'm exploring new things. I'm trying to explore new things, study about, like for an example, I'm taking agile coaching course right now on my own. NLP, EQ, all these are exploring, not for the sake of certification, but for understanding. So that's my exploration. Cycling is also exploration. Now he's a lecturer, but if you see the flavor is still there to speak, to guide, to coach and so on. So I think, pretty much how society put us in a box and make us operate in that box, and that is where we lose our touch points of, okay lah, Naman, that's not going to work, let's fit in, so on. And that's my opinion.
Very interesting. And when you say about the box, right, I think I recently came across like a psychological study whereby, usually children, they give them coloring books to paint and all these things.
Correct.
So basically they have an image of something and then they ask children to paint. The child who painted within the borders become like, they surveyed it over the years. So these people became like, regular jobs, whatever, engineers, doctors.
Right.
But the child who painted outside the, like basically painted wherever he wanted to paint, those are the ones who became like, very successful businessmen, very successful, those, out of the handful of people.
Correct.
Very interesting when you say about box.
Correct.
If you don't mind, if I can add on to that, it triggered me to three recent findings or what I read. That box, it's actually without you realizing how the mind starts thinking within the limitation. It's just a border, correct? And what I read just very recently is they said make sure you keep your child boring. Allow them to be experiencing the boring moment instead of feeding them exciting things. Because when we engage them, they engage to something, they get caught up to that. Padahal when they are in a boring mode, that's where creativity expands. The thinking process expands. So that process of from childhood feeding something will make them to depend on that something. So that box is something that made them to depend, oh okay, this is where I need to work on. Padahal instead of they actually don't have border as a kid, right? And the third point that I remember reading, especially now having a baby, of course you get into researching about babies, that it's a very nice scientific documentary which says the highest, most intellectual creature of scientists, to define a scientist, is actually a baby. Because they come open, free, totally pure, right? I mean, I describe every child as God born, you know, all right? It is us who's born as God and we became human, unfortunately, all right? But imagine God, He is infinite and there's no limitation. So that is what an extent of their research creativity. You know, they are scientists born, you know, that's why you can see how they explore and they learn, you know, and if we can't learn certain things unless we have a class or we try to research. But they don't have a class, they are discovering how to crawl, how to turn, how to touch, how to feel. That's highest, most intellectual creativity of a scientist. So I think that's where it reflects upon when you start giving a limit without us realizing, we start feeding, so they tend to learn and capture to that only. That becomes their safe zone or comfort zone. So it's a blessing if we try to, I call it spiritual journey. You know, you want to let go towards nothingness, it's best to discover back how you started as a baby.
That exploration exploration only comes when you are bored about something, when the searching is there.
Correct.
Right?
No limit lah.
And the actual growth happens outside of your comfort zone. Because most of the time we are confined with certain rules, right? So we are stuck with it. But the moment we go out of it, question it, analyze it and contemplate upon it, more new doors opens. Like for an example, in the Sai organization we talk about love all and serve all. It's a basic word that every one of us use. But to be frank with you, I think that is the most difficult sentence to follow. Forget about all the complicated satsang. Let's just stick on love all, serve all. That's crazy. It says love all, serve all, which means what? You should love people. Forget about people. All. Let's take the human perspective. I'm just analyzing it. Just take on human. You should love human beings who agree with you and don't agree with you. That means you should accept everyone who has different perception of Sai as a whole. Okay, that's love, that's on the human element. Can we do that? In our house, in our workplace, in the organization itself, can we do that? Like accept people for their different opinion. So that's a question. All animals. Love all, serve all, right? That's what Swami said, right? Like I for me until now, okay, this is another perspective of me. I always question, it doesn't make sense for us to glorify our pets, because they are cute, like dogs, and then kill a chicken for our taste bud. Both those are animals. Correct or not? Both those are animals, right?
Both those I love.
Both those I love. This one I'm putting in the mouth, that one thing. So that's all, right? So for me, it doesn't make sense because if you glorify your pet and you kill another animal, doesn't make sense. The car that you say, love all. How many of us actually respect our car, keep our car clean? No point putting Swami's picture in the car and then keep it like a garbage bin. Sorry to be very straight. Correct, right?
Very
now
true.
I'm just dwelling upon only one saying, Swami's love all, serve all, This itself, I'm still struggling. So it's actually simplicity. See, just to connect back to what we are discussing on this exploration and so on. If you take one sentence or whatever, one thing Swami said, and you dwell upon it, there's so much depth to it, and we might not even cross to the next stage because there's so much of essence to that simple thing. I haven't gone to help ever hurt. Wait,
Hurt never.
did I say it correctly? Help ever hurt never. I always confuse these. Help never hurt ever. So yeah, coming back to that lah. So this is my point. Simple things like that, you have to explore. Then you get more gist of life on it lah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think one thing I saw was what Simon Sinek said was passion is a output, it's a result.
Correct.
But what's actually triggering is the vision. You must have vision.
Exactly.
You must really embody a concept like what you said.
Correct.
Love all, serve all.
Exactly,
You must embody
exactly.
it. Then only you'll have passion towards doing something. Then only you'll reflect it upon what you said.
Exactly.
So this is a very important thing about passion.
Correct.
Okay. So maybe the next question I'll put it on to Prasath Anna. So Anna, so this is a hard question lah. So at this moment in your life, do you follow your passion right now, or do you do what is right or expected of you?
Okay, so I will need to answer it in a hard way, I guess.
No, I mean
what I mean is because as I mentioned, even when this topic was introduced, I did openly tell to those who approached me. I said, passion is definitely a hard topic for me because, as I said, even in the question of ambition, you saw how I travel without much of a focus point. It wasn't really triggering me. So I did do some homework. I have to a disclaimer here for this topic, right? Because I didn't know how I can address or contribute to the topic. So firstly, I really hope Swami speaks through us. Of course, the satsang have gone so far now, and I did last night I did speak to my brother as well to get some inputs. Right. So my own thought when I tried to define passion first, as an understanding, I think it starts from so-called interest or what you like, right? And to fast forward to that, we need to deserve to make it or turn it into passion. Like what the person that you quoted just now, right? It's the vision. Right? And in my point of view, in a perspective where I call it willpower. You might like something, okay? I like sports, I like driving, but what do I invest for it to turn into passion? So we have to be very clear before we can even define that I have passion, all right? Because it's a big word. You need to deserve to have it, all right? So if you like, how much, to what extent you invest to expand it, and then you are. That's why I call it as willpower. Because once it's passion, you will give life for it. Correct or not? That's what passion means. Let's not degrade the word passion itself. So from that perspective, I might not have invested to any extent of certain things in my life to become a passion. So I'm definitely in a boat of a traveling boat where I'm just working towards the need of my life because I go with the flow. I do see it as a blessings in my life, saying that I didn't have to fight for something so strong. All right, I did come from a family where it's just regular, below regular income and following whatever available. And as I said, I had to wait for education within the capacity of what I can get a government university. Otherwise, I wouldn't have continued tertiary education. So it goes with the flow of what is given, and nothing was triggering me to fight for something. I want this. So if at all I had that, definitely it would have been sports, because that's how I spent my life. All right. And then driving is definitely a company that I am now. I'm with Toyota. It's full of driving. All right. So whether I call it as passion, I do not know whether I deserve to call it as a passion. But it's a flow of need where I'm just going with the flow of what is needed and how am I experiencing my life in that flow. So that's how I would trigger to this, reflect to this question lah.
More like at the moment.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So same question to Sai.
Okay. So the question was are you following your passion?
At the moment, are you following your passion, or
Okay.
are you doing what is needed of the moment, or what's expected, or what's right at the moment to do?
Okay. So for my passion, to speak, if I were to do something till the last breath of my life, I love public speaking a lot. I like to become an international speaker, travel abroad, and so on. So I'll just explain to you like this context of it. So I started my career as a production operator, and then I went up grew nicely, and I was a GM in a company called Mobile Repair Solution. Okay, so that is so called the peak of the positions and accolades and so on. Then after doing that, there was one point in year 2014 meet, I realized that I want to quit and I follow my passion. Okay, to be a public speaker. Then I took all certification, I become a trainer. So what I did, I quit my job, I started following my passion, took it as my career without, I would say, without knowing what's on the other side, you know. So I started to go in, just jump in to become a trainer. And that's where my whole career declined actually, because I didn't had continuous training opportunities and it went down the drain. So from 2015 to 2019 was one of the lowest moment in my life. I was out here smiling, doing work, this and that, but the battle that I went through, only I know lah. So I was very, because following passion, but I didn't know what to expect. So in terms of business and so on, I was lack knowledge and all. So came to a point that I need to think whether I want to push it further, I want to focus on my responsibility. I have a responsibility to feed my family. So I cannot be holding on to my passion, saying that if I push through and put them into difficulty. So I was contemplating, okay, let's get back to a job. Okay, but fair enough, by His grace, the job came to me through our previous connection and all. They say there's an opening. So it was like going up, then came down, and then the job of a national sales manager came by. So after that, from 2019 onwards, it was a growth also. So now what I do, I came to learn, okay, following passion is one thing, but also have to be realistic of what is needed. So public speaking, yes. So I still do public speaking, short training when I need to. But ideally, that's my goal. But now I have a role to fulfill, and the job that I'm doing, then I did some analysis. I say, what could fit my characteristics? Public speaking, which means that I like to speak. So what job scope can really fit into this kind of a thing? So sales is all about speaking, convincing and so on. Probably it's not 100% of the topic that I want to do, but there is a portion of it which goes out, and I have that flavor of, you know, like you have a sales team, you got to motivate them, right? You got to pick all this. So that's how it is going lah. So that is, following passion is good, but there's always a catch to it. It's not in a normal flow. There's so many things for us to learn along the way, and we should be prepared to face it. So this is my journey lah. So in currently, yes, I'm not fully into becoming a public speaker, but in my role right now, at least 60 to 70% of it I'm doing is like connecting with people, communicating to them, motivating them, trying to divert them into the positive direction. So I'm doing that all. Like for an example, to relate, you see, my dream is to become public speaker. Public speaker means to motivate people, to bring them into positive direction. So now I'm in sales, right? So normally what people will, this is a classic thing, a real life scenario. Every time they'll say the market is bad, economy is down. After COVID, things got worse. That's the normal flavor. But you know me, I always take the opposite direction. So market is bad, okay, fine. So I'll ask myself, is it really the truth? Okay, you go on a weekend, you go to a shopping mall. Like I'm in the IT line. DG Mall, Love Yard, Imbi is our area. Go there. Is it empty or is it full? Okay, economy down, right? You go to Sunway Pyramid. You go to Pavilion. You go when iPhone is launched, you go and see. Is it empty or is it full? Very simple. If it's full, which means the buying power is there. We are not positioning ourselves towards market demand. That's my logic. And nobody can question that because it's that clear, right? So this is how I think lah. So yeah, that's how Swami guides us through in that way. So that's the way I see it lah.
Okay, right. So interesting thoughts, right? I think two different views, but both are correct in their own way.
Correct.
Whether you are following a passion or whether you are thinking of doing what's right at the moment, which is correct also.
Yeah.
So, but I think if you look at the general population, more people are inclined towards doing what is right and what is needed at the moment compared to really following the passion. Following a passion makes you happy. Of course, it makes you more happier than doing what is right at the moment. Yeah. Why do you think more people? What do you think is the reasons probably contributing towards doing what is right, what is needed at the moment compared to running after passion? Only like maybe like we can say about 20-30% only really follow 100% to a passion, leave everything and run behind passion.
Right.
What do you think is some of the reasons, and maybe 30%?
Okay, so I think it's quite clear, this question is quite clear in the current generation itself. You know, even just last week when I had this Convo meeting, it's entirely a young generation. And I told them, if I'm sitting with my batch of gang, right, it'll be 90% who are employers in a company. But with you, your gang now, 90% of you all are already having your own business. They are just 18 and 19. All right, if you all know the current generation who are on social media, it's a shift of generation. There's no blame for any generation, but it's a shift on how it has catered. I look it into two ways. One is how Brother Saiji explained of his journey, right? It triggers me on the quote that says, love what you do. You know, not do what you love, but love what you do. All right, that means you are actually, that passion is something that you're giving an extra oomph of willpower to wanting to do it in wherever you are. Correct? Because you are so passionate about it, you can actually do it wherever you are. So it's just a matter of how you discover it. Because the challenge to do that and the challenge to start up something on your own is equal same. Correct? It's just maybe financially or the energy and time to be put in. Like he wanted to be a public speaker, so he had to invest into a company and to do something like that. But the same capacity, the same capability to bring it up and to shine in a company, it's not easy also. All right, there could be so many good salesperson there. All right, so it's an equal effort. It's just that the perspective that you look into and how much you will actually giving a justification to what actually you love and do it. All right. So the second part of it is definitely, I think from civilization onwards, like, all right, I'm going too far, but that's how humanity have gone into improvement constantly. We have not gone into dive down. Of course, probably in terms of morality and people say and all these things, humanity is going down. But in terms of living lifestyle, all right, we have gone from stone age to where we are now. Okay, from spiritual perspective is different, but on a very materialistic world, we are constantly growing. Technology is just going up and up. So it's definitely all the hard work and effort done from the past. This generation done something and it turns out to be good for the next. Same goes to for many generations. So the current generation has so much of scope on how they can go for their passion because it's all within the reach of hand. All right, nothing, it's borderless. Anything that you want to discover is almost borderless. All right, of course, probably in the past it was more on survival. I need food. I need to have food in my hand for my stomach, for my family when you are getting married or your family is depending on you. But now, even below B40, it's no more constant because there's always a support. Correct? So that means, yes, we do still see poor people struggling and all that, but that is in general of how life perspective is. But overall, availability, choices and opportunities are more and more. Therefore, how the current generation is able to pick the passion and start despite their young age is quite obvious. Correct? So it's about what, that doesn't mean they are in comfort zone. All right, just because they had the opportunity to grab what they want compared to us, that doesn't mean they are in comfort zone. They might start in comfort zone probably, but they are also going to go through a life where they also will go through the struggle, and that's where their passion will come into picture when they put the willpower to work for it. Correct? To turn into, everyone are having business now if you notice. Every single individual are in business. Correct? So how will that sustain their living? That's where the challenge will come, and that's where they will grow to bring that to an extent of how passion turns out to be something inspiring to world. All right, that's how many leaders of the world now they started from nowhere. They started from nowhere actually. Okay? So that's how I see the progress could be.
It's almost like climbing a building with and probably during our generation we climb without a safety net, so we are a bit more cautious about how we climb. So now you have safety net, but as higher you climb, the risk is still there, right?
Because you do not know what's the other side, right?
Yeah, very true.
So the thing here is this, right? Doing the right thing versus passion. Why many people are just stuck in doing the right thing, managing, instead of following the passion? So now the thing here is following your passion, there's a lot of risk to it. And then every single thing that you do, it takes time. For you to come to this world, it took 9 months. You don't plant a seed today and expect the seed to grow as a flower tomorrow. It takes time. So do we have the passion, do we have the patience, to wait for it to grow is question number one. Number two is, we have to put in a layman term, each one of us have our current commitments of life. Okay, we have to fulfill it. We cannot neglect everything and say, no, I want to pursue my passion. Like you are married, you have kids, so that's your role there. You got to fulfill that, right? So what works well to fulfill that requirement is what we have to do, the right thing, okay? But that doesn't mean that for you to completely ignore this. You see, the thing here is, in my opinion, we got to step back. Every individual flourish in their own way, in their own timeline. You see, I might take 10 days to learn a topic or even to understand. I'm blur.com, very slow learner. You might take a day, he might take an hour. The least we can do is compare among each other. We have to embrace the growth of every individual. So in a larger view, we might think that many people are not completely into passion, but some might do the right thing, but they do follow their passion in a side hustle. Some might yet to discover, like Prasath said, right? I'm yet to discover. That's also normal. Some completely, the younger ones you said, they dive in online, market ready, everything's ready. So the way I see it, right, as you said initially, there's no right or wrong.
Right, no right or wrong.
Everyone flourish according to their own way, and they take their own pace of understanding. For me, I got to learn the hard way. I work, stop, came down, then start again with the safety net, how to work around. Some are brave. If I was to be single, alone, maybe I'm 20 years old right now, I would have stopped everything and I've just went through my passion. That's a different story altogether. Yeah. But now it's different. I'm 44 right now. I have a lot of things. So that's the right thing to do, okay? To take care of everything, and then side hustle, you do your coaching, you do your this one and so on. So I think it is life as a whole which directs every individual to either do the right thing as of now or not follow their passion, kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So eventually it comes up to decisions, decision, whether passion or I mean, there are risks associated to it, and you need to take certain decisions to correct yourself and make sure you are in a proper position, whether it's following passion or doing the right thing. So, what are the factors that you take into consideration when you're making a decision, a very important decision in life when it comes to passion or doing the right thing? What's your compass?
Like, shall I go?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like for me, what I do daily basis, every day you're prone to take a decision. You cannot avoid that, every in business decision or what. So my compass is whatever I do, right, how much does it add value to the person in front of me? That's even in business paradigm and so on. Like being a public speaker is my dream, right? So why I want to be a public speaker? Because I want to motivate people, make them become better. I cannot be right now. So what I have right now is my work and my family members. How I can, and the rest. So every time when we are in touch with another human being, how I can add value. So for that, I need to audit myself first. They will say in Tamil, "Ennam pol vaalkai." I think that's a simple thing, but it's the most powerful thing. You know what's easy? What is easy is for us to have a divine approach. What's easy for us to turn up for bhajans every week and become the most sciistic person here in the center. You know what's difficult? To do the same thing when nobody watches us. That's difficult. When you're out there, what are you thinking? You can see Sairam and you can see this fellow, I tell you. Two different things, you know. I can say, Sairam bro, how are you bro? Oh, Swami's grace bro. I can say that. But instead if I curse you, that's a failure altogether. Ennam pol vaalkai, right? So what is my thinking pattern? So normally, right, what I do every day, I put a graph and I audit my thoughts. The last 24 hours, what was my thought like? Was I worried about certain things? Then I put the things, then I put, is it fear? Is it thing? Then I'll say, okay, you have faith in this. You have this. So I'll put that. Then I will do, in my day-to-day basis, I write my goals of my day, my goals of my week, my goals of my month, my goals of my year. Every day I write this. So to point me to the right direction. So, but the bottom line is self audit lah. What thoughts am I having inside first? I correct myself first. If something negative, trust me, it's not easy. Until now, although no matter what, some negative thoughts will come, some left kind of a thought will come. I got to bring myself back and then audit myself. Now, am I okay? Am I right? Doing the right thing? Okay, and then okay, how I can add value. So that is my take on this entire basically decisions. How you make a decision? You get yourself sorted out first, and then the rest will reveal, in my opinion.
Okay, right. Interesting
So,
thought, Prasath.
Yeah, I think this is another question, right, to decide on how to answer itself. Because as I said earlier, right, how Swami have given, despite the so-called worldly family background or growth that doesn't appear to be very luxury, but he have given me, I've seen my life until now. I used to say that it's the best life that anyone can have, because I see it from the spiritual perspective of how Swami have blessed the life where I didn't have to make any critical decisions. All right, so the flow have been going in such, and now, but that will not remain forever. Correct. That you are growing and growing. There's commitment, there's networking happening, and definitely at one point of time, certain tough decision has to be made. So I think in that comfort zone of how Swami have created a platform, another add-on blessings is definitely Sai family, because being a person who wasn't going much to anything, the family as an organization, I used to tell the youths, this organization is literally the simulation of your real life. Because you can go and hit and knock and fall and learn, this place here. Not all of us, all of you who are doing recording here are into media, but you learn this because of your passion or you are part of this role. So like that, we learn many things, and you are not being paid here for what. You are not failing in any way, but you are constantly learning out of your comfort zone. Correct? So that's how the family have given me so much confidence to an extent. I used to tell myself in my past, I label myself as a glossophobia, fear of speech, even until I was about to get into university. So how that have converted the way of how I am now, correct? It's a total different shift. So that kind of leadership and involvement from the ground level of activities that you do has involved in decision making, because it's out of your normal life routine, correct? So that have given me a perspective of a comfort zone, I would say, on how every decision making can be done from a spiritual perspective. All right, it might sound very high level, but actually it's back to the basic of oneness. All right, Swami's quotes of, you are God, I am God. So how do I talk to you? When brother mentioned, right, I can be saying something, but it's different in my mind. So how that actually, that oneness that is God in you, how am I going to speak to you? It's also a decision, right? It's a constant process of decision making that is being imbibed in your practice of spirituality. So now I've seen it as a process where from now in my career I see difficulties. We all say life seems to be tough after COVID. In a way, it seems to be true. The same job that I am in, but how am I going to go to work tomorrow seems to be different or tougher for me to think about, because the scope is changing. So that makes me, or leading me to think of something. Do I need to make a decision to quit? Do I need to make a decision to find another option? Now my family is suspending. I need to make a decision whether it's the right time to quit. All right. So this has been a battle daily basis, to be very frank.
Yeah.
So it came to a point where a person who struggles for a passion from zero is almost equivalent to a person who's struggling with what you need to do also now. All right. If it could be just judgmental way of thinking. We think, okay, you're getting salary monthly, you have nothing to worry about. But now it's no more in that way already, because as much as so much opportunities in a single click of what you can explore, what you can study, what you can start a business, because everyone seems to be doing business. How do I decide that now? So that decision making seems being tougher and tougher, but this is where I see it as a blessings on how the spiritual learning given to me to constantly contemplate, constantly think about, and not react in a situation. All right, I might be something might trigger at workplace that I want to quit now. But that could be a reaction that I'm taking out of emotion. But if I contemplate with all the sadhanas that you gain, or meditation or studying literatures and all that, that have brought you to a higher consciousness level. Correct or not? Alright, I think the upcoming Omkar also, not revealing, but it's I think from the discussion they were talking about anchor. Alright, so this is something my brother also told me last night, when how you make decision based on what anchor you are in. What is your anchor point? Alright, in any point, your anchor is, he gave an example, right? Your passion is singing, your interest is singing. Do you want to learn the singing and be the best of a singer because of the singing, or because you want to be a famous person? Alright, which is your anchor? Alright, so your anchor is, if it is because want to become famous, you might not focus really into the singing, you know. You might find different ways. Correct? So how you decide is depending on what is you say like compass, right? So that anchor is that one thing, and making use of all the spiritual learnings is the best way of decision making, I can say to up to this stage of how that struggle have been balanced into decision making on daily life.
There were instances, right, for the decision thing, just to add on, I resonate with him completely. So recently I experienced was there was some waves, hard waves in life, I would say, okay. So in terms of, I was wondering, I came to a point that I don't know how to decide. I don't know what to do, you know. So it was completely not right thing, and I had my point and everything has their own point. So I asked Swami, that's the only, I asked Swami, what do I do right now? Things are not right. I know what I'm telling, see, according to everything you are saying I'm doing, what do I do right now? And for me the answer comes, do nothing. Exactly, do nothing, you know, nothing. So then I asked, which means I'm losing, you know. If I'm not doing anything, I'm losing, do nothing. So these are the things sometimes then you cannot comprehend the logic behind what the intuitive sense gives you, the decision. Sometimes really don't know what to do. So you ask the divine and he gives something. But then when you realize, when you do nothing, right, a lot of things sort things out by itself. The most, as you said, you mentioned it very good, being reactive to something, right. So that's where the actual cause of a lot of problems, the way I see it in life. So sometimes being reactive can be a biggest cause, you know. So what else do I do? Can I do? So you are doing certain practices, and you come to a point you are doing certain practices and things are just sustaining. So what else you can do? Like for an example, for me, right, I wake up early. I love meditation, so I follow the 9 codes, try my level best to follow lah. So there was a time that I was telling, I'm doing this meditation, I'm doing that weekly bhajans, I'm not doing, but I find my life is like, it's just there. It's not like in the peak, it's not losing its day. What else could I do? So let's do something else. So what I recently started to do is, I wake up at 3:30. 3:30 to 4 I'll meditate, just to taste that Brahma Muhurtam meditation thing. After meditation I'll sleep back lah, then I'll wake up the normal working hour. So additional, beyond your comfort zone. So I think when you uphold what is teaching and do something beyond your comfort zone, probably the universe will pave a path for a clearer decision to make. You know, like you see example, you wake, I do that meditation, you come back, yeah, at work, right, when you want to type a simple email, straight to the point, the ideas will just flow. I'm not asking everyone to wake up that early, but putting additional effort towards what he has taught us could open up path towards our day-to-day life. So you know what actually to type, you know who to talk to. The intuitive sense will say, you talk to this person. Then suddenly you say, okay, go and praise this guy. So you praise like, good job bro, that kind of a thing lah. You know, but it happens. So actually most of the decision I think the divine has planned lah. Okay. So it makes us feel as if we are taking the decision, but there will be a point that you don't know how to decide. So the only resort is him, and trust me, he will answer in his own style. In his own style that resonates to you, he will answer.
I think very interesting that you brought in how Swami decides everything
Correct.
for you, and it's a divine plan that you don't see lah. You just go with the flow.
Exactly.
But I think one very interesting, I think a lot of interesting stories actually came up from students sharing from Parthi, right? So when Swami was in physical form, students used to, after their MBA, whatever, people are just waiting for Swami to say, go do this, waiting for Swami to show what's the direction you should take. They don't want to decide anything for themselves. So there's two boys, basically in Parthi. I think probably you heard this story countless times. So these two boys who are toppers in the university. Okay, so they were also there and they were waiting for Swami to say something, after their graduation, everything, waiting there. And Swami called them and said, both of you, you're going to the US to do medicine. But how these people were doing MBA. They are MBA graduates. So how MBA medicine doesn't make sense, totally different field. So said, okay, since Swami said, okay Swami, we will do whatever, they are confused of course, but they said, whatever you say, we'll do. Okay, for that I think you need to go to Bangalore to take an exam. So in 1 week's, you go now, in 1 week's time the exam is there, take the exam and go. So these boys also just left, there, and then they enrolled in some, they wanted to enroll in some GRE courses and all this thing. Then they said, so the exam is a GRE exam, so it's a very tough exam to clear before you apply for a medicine seat and all. So they told the guy who was handling the coaching center per se, and said, oh, you want to attend the GRE exam? Then he said, you need at least 6 months for you to prepare for the exam. You are saying 1 week you want to attend the exam, how is it impossible? They said, we cannot lose our, their average scoring is 70% passing. They said, we don't want to ruin our score by enrolling both of you. But if you choose, we'll give you all the material, you can use whatever material, but you take it as private candidates. So that's what they said. Okay, so their grade is 70%. So these boys also studied, these boys really put in the effort, studied 1 week, and they sat for the exam. When the result came out, they scored 90%.
Wow.
Higher than what the
normal
coaching center
right.
So then after the exam, they came back and then they're saying, okay, now apply to the university and all these things. So before the application, they need their passports approved, the visa and all are approved. So at that point of time, US was suspending what they call this visa entry into US.
Okay.
So I think there's some turmoil going on, political turmoil going on. So everything suspended. So impossible for you to get a visa. So they said, never mind. Swami said, never mind, you apply first, and then you just apply. So they applied. Apparently, something happened, and the call came back from the commissioner, the ambassador, all the way say approve these 2 visas. Don't know how, somehow approved. Okay, fine, approved.
Okay, nice.
It's impossible to get approved within the short span of time.
Right.
Then okay, fine, they went to the US. They they said, when they went to the US, they said, oh, admission for this course is over already. You cannot what do you call this, the admission is over, just over, so you need to wait for another semester for you to enroll. Then one of the devotees of Swami in US, he went to the dean and said, oh, this is Swami's devotees, you're doing so much different activities here and there, explained everything. Then suddenly the president basically called for an emergency meeting between all the board members, emergency meeting, and then immediately got approved. Impossible for anybody to do that. So they went and approved everything. And suppose that course, of course, medicine course will take years and years, right? But these boys were able to they took up extra
subjects,
credits and all these things, and they cleared it half of the time that compared to the regular students.
Wow.
So when they came back, they said, all this, if you look at it right now, all of this is impossible to happen. Everything is impossible.
Right.
It only happened because Swami said, go and do medicine.
Exactly.
And Swami made every step of the way without obstacle.
Exactly.
Of course, they need to put in their effort regardless.
Correct.
But Swami's will is the one
Exactly,
that puts in. Right?
exactly,
So when
totally.
Prasath was saying also, your life is pretty much smooth sailing, right? Because maybe Swami made it that way that it should be in a smooth sailing way.
Correct.
Just to add on to that, from both your perspective, right, gives me a picture of how God's will is operating constantly, right?
Correct.
It's constantly operating, but at the same time, for us to be aware that He says you put 1 step and He'll put the 100 steps, correct? Right? So let's not forget that 1 step that we need to supposed to put. All right. So in that step that we put, when he described what are the sadhanas that we do towards that. But the challenge to make this come together, right, is 2 things. Number 1 is we always want things instant.
Correct.
All right. We want instant. Number 2 is we want it as how we want it. Correct. So that's where the gap is actually. Alright, so these two challenges is causing, and when it comes to satsang, we are so called from this generation, or however I call it, we have the schema jawapan. Alright, so we think we have an SOP. I have this problem, I must have a solution. Yes. This is the, okay, the speaker is telling this is a solution, I will follow this. And I do this, I am not getting a solution. So something wrong. So I am not doing it the right way. But padahal, the thing is, God's will is constant, and when I am taking that one step, it doesn't mean it answers you there and there. It's about how you constantly putting the sadhanas, and that sadhanas will make you be conscious constantly in future. Alright, so let's say meditation, let's say literature, or whatever you're practicing, it's making you better and better and better. That means you are improving constantly. But if you don't put any effort and just saying that I need to study for this, I study this, I score it. Yes, you might score it at there, but how's your future? Alright, so decision making might not always give you a leisure of time. There are times where at that time you need to decide, correct? But at that time to decide, as he described, right, how would that capability come if you did not put the practice of sadhana in the past? Alright, so that is that one step. Our spiritual progress is what the entire life is. So that's why it's not said that, oh, when you get old only you meditate because that's when you need it. That when you have time only you read Sai literature or spiritual literature, that's when you need it, or that's when you can do it. No. From child we are giving this, we are supposed to learn this because it is useful for us forever of the life. Alright. So decision making is that's a journey of decision making. You investing in that consumption of sadhanas will help you to be a better decision maker, whether it's 1 hour, 1 year, 1 month, or 1 second, because it's a growth. And then you'll come to a realization that actually it's all His will, and I've done my best to be His instrument, so it syncs well. So these two sharings is giving me that picture of that.
Even during, this is just during see, before COVID so my kids were going to bhajans, SS3. So when you go to bhajan, it's a day event. After bhajans, they go for balvikas. Then after they stay for bhajans. Then after bhajans, we'll go out, we'll communicate and so on. So that's an event. This COVID put a stop for everything. So without me realizing, we made it clear that I don't know how I'm not a bhajan goer. Trust me on this. I don't go bhajan often. I don't like participate. I have my own ways. I think if you guys know me well. But some weird reason, when the COVID started, I told my house, we're going to have bhajans every week in the house. And they were like, come on, run our bhajan. So I said, no, we have to do it. So first 2-3 weeks was forcefully done. I'll tell, come, you'll have bhajan practice with my 5 of us. So ever since COVID till now, every week we'll have bhajans. And that's also one of the code of conduct, right? Weekly prayers and bhajans at home and all. So when I look back, right, it's not me deciding some spiritual, no, it's he have decided and showed the path. Certain things you got to forcefully do, which technically I did, But then, now every week we have bhajans. So in our house, either Saturday, Sunday, we are a bit flexible on that. So we after bhajans, the kids will do they'll write, they'll practice bhajans, and then after bhajans, we'll have a gratitude session. We'll say what are we thankful for this week, and we go on that route. So this boils down to the decision that he made through us. Okay, weekly bhajan, have it at home, and it makes a lot of difference. Although it is a night code of conduct which people, it's just part of it we can do, but when you do it right, it resonates to a different level of family bonding in that case. So so just to drop in and share on that.
So when we speak about passion, right, and there's two aspects to passion. Let's say my passion is I want to make money.
Right.
Okay, so there's two ways I can go about it. One is the dharmic right way of doing things.
Correct.
Another one is the adharmic way of doing
correct,
things.
Correct.
Both also will get me to the goal.
Correct.
But which is the right thing to do? So that's the question I'm putting towards you. What's your opinion on this? Maybe start with Prasath.
Okay, so right and wrong is again, people used to say there's no right and wrong, but it's again from the perspective of how you put it. All right. Now you can say a person who hangs a person. If there's the jail sentence is given as death sentence, the person who have to hang a person, it's how can I say you can kill a person, correct? But that seems to be a job. So how do you say that's right and wrong now, right? So it can go to every extent of back to decision making. So right and wrong. So eventually if that is let's say you, as you said, quoted to be a rich person, you want money, and which is the best way to get it, are you in peace with it in whichever path that you took? All right, and again back to basic again, help ever, hurt never, live all, serve all. So how can you be forever doing the wrong, so-called wrong thing which harms others, which if you go in a simple saying, cheating way, all right, that cheating way is definitely, there's a victim behind it.
Yeah.
All right, if you contemplate extra a bit, all right, if you don't contemplate, yes, I need money, I got it, a simple snatch of it, but the struggle that another person goes through, again back to the so-called ultimate spirituality of oneness, if I'm that person, I will take extra few seconds to think from the person who's I'm going to steal the money from. If I have that, it doesn't need a high rocket science of capability, just to put yourself a few seconds in another person's shoe and imagine what they have gone through the struggle to earn that, and you are grabbing that. However white lie or however political way you say it, that's a way of earning. All right. So I think that has to be the way of deciding your definition of right and wrong. You realize the spirituality within you, you realize the humanity within you, and that decision is enough. That process is enough to make sure you do the thing in that right way. All right, because you don't want to harm others, you don't want to hurt others, and you don't want to be selfishly wanting to grow by killing others. All right. So I think that's how definition of dharmic way lah.
More like what the values you carry, like,
Yes.
it should be reflecting, and
Basic of
shouldn't be on.
what's the Swami says, sir, what's the basic of you being you deserve to be called human if you don't have that values. So just try to practice that values in every simple act of your daily life. That is sufficient to make sure you are actually on a dharmic path. My take on it.
Okay. Like for me, right? Okay, you treat others as how you want to be treated. That's the most simplest thing to see. So if you decide to cheat others, eventually you'll be cheated one day. The life cycles like this. You don't shortcut life. If you shortcut life, life will shortcut you. Michael Jordan said this, in one of his interviews. He said, you don't shortcut the game, which means that you need to put the practice to succeed. If you shortcut the game because of some promotional activity, the game will shortcut you. Which means each game, each business, each corporate has a life of its own, an energy of its own. It sees. So you think you might take or cheat others. We all have seen what's happening in the country, what's happening throughout the world. Everyone who took the adharmic path eventually will come to that place that they started, and eventually will have to face the consequences. Every single step that you take, you must be aware that there is a consequences to it. All right. So the dharmic or adharmic part, you decide. So how do you decide? You treat others the way you want to be treated. Okay, like he said, many of them want it now. Like you see, we all have heard of, since you talk about money, we all have heard a lot about this scheme Cepat Kaya, many times, right? But have you seen anyone succeeded extremely? There are so many, almost 90%, until now it's happening. Initially they'll get the money, eventually the owner will run away. And those who want the things to get fast early, they'll lose the money. Until now, I mean, this thing has been going for don't know how many years. Until now, people still take the bait and people still lose the money. So you have to put your effort and you have to put the right way. And you see, we all are the billboards of values. That's the way I comprehend it. So we are our brand, You are your own brand, Saiji is his own brand, he is his own brand. So when we are here today, we all know there are certain things that we uphold very seriously on it. So what you want your brand to represent. When people tell my name, they should know this guy this is his values. This is why he represents. People mention your name, this is why he represents. Prasath, this is what he represents. So the thing is, what do you represent? I always ask myself. So every single thing, although it's contradicting, if it's rightful, like how he believes, you can survive. Even though you're alone or you're with a group, doesn't matter. So the dharmic way is always the shortest, fastest and the best way to progress in life. We all think fastest means tomorrow it happened, but you see, there's a concept to it. You have your career, you have your personal life, you have your health. Many people think when you succeed in career and do all your shortcuts, you can grow. But sometimes if you see the overall cycle, your personal life might be in limbo. Or these two might be there, your health will give away. You know? So it is a cycle, you know, it's an overall package which normally we don't see it. Health especially. We think we can, for an example, okay, I'm going to step on a lot of people's feet right now. Seva, 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 seva. You ignore your family, you ignore your health. Do you think it's right? What's the point of going out and touching the society's life when your house is not in order? That's the logic which I see. So it is a cycle. What's the point of going out and doing seva and everything when you don't take care of this temple, you know, this body is the temple of God. Example, forget about me, look at him. At the age, what he eats, what is the weight that he maintained? There is a book which I bought when I was, the environment thing, book that Swami says, what is his diet like. And he doesn't eat a lot. He doesn't follow his tongue, you know. Swami's diet is very strict. He eats very less and he maintains certain, I don't know the measurement, but he maintains certain kgs until up to certain age. And he did mention about it. You all can Google and check. Yeah. Swami is a resemblance of health, you know. Many people don't do. We choose the seva part of it, we choose the bhajan part of it, but he never choose his lifestyle of how he maintained his diet. There was a story whereby, this story came by, thanks Swami. He was playing with the villagers and there's a thing that they were playing with the tire or something like that. So, no, not that, sorry. This one, he was doing an arm wrestling. I think you all know this story, right? Yeah. So the athlete, students, they think, so they will try to, in my mind they say, what this old man can see, the one boy will go. Then he will do, then he cannot move, you know. Then the friend will say, hey, Arey, finish it, yeah. Then you say, I cannot finish it. The second fellow will go, it will do, cannot. Swami is there. And then there will be a conversation. They will ask, Swami, you use your divine power. He said, for this, I don't need to use my divine power. He haven't even go there, you know. He haven't even go to his superpower. Humanly possible. How? His health, his diet, how he see things. So, forget about human beings. If we really want to excel or move forward or whatnot, just photo step or follow line by line what he has said without questioning or using your intellect. You must be zero to follow the hero. You know, really, you must be empty here to actually follow him. Exactly. And eventually it will flourish. So that's
I wanted to add this, but he ended it very well, because the best answer for this question is every avatar. Why should that so infinite God should take a human form? Why? There are many reasons, but he had to do it because he had to teach it in a human way for us. So every avatar from Rama till now, I think that's the best way of life, to teach our kids and our own self their lifestyle. Sufficient enough to answer how to be dharmic and how to practice the values.
Yeah. So last question, I think anybody can answer this one. So if you follow your passion, let's say, right, so which do you think is better in a way, based on whatever we discussed, right? Which do you think is better, following a passion or doing what is right, or what is needed at the moment? Your concluding thoughts. You want to go first?
Okay, so to give you time to think, I think, as I said, I quote from my own experience with my little knowledge that I have exposed with everyone that I've seen. It's both equal. It's definitely both equal, because it's both equally challenging, equally interesting if you choose to. Because the so-called passion is a drive. When you strive for it, you're struggling from zero, but you can choose to love it. All right? I mean, how can you love something when you're really suffering to make it happen? You still have that love, right? So the same way is to love what you're doing, because you can discover your passion there also. So it's an equal struggle, provided you are satisfied, and the only way to be satisfied is to do it in the right way. The right way is by values. All the 5 values that we know in this organization, that is the right way that you can go at the end of every day, you go to sleep in peace, despite all the 24 hours of struggle. So passion and do what you need is equally same important, and how you drive it, because life is all about the journey. All right, easy way saying, but that's the truth. That's the truth. Where is so-called result? You know, we say surrender the result, right? That's the reality. You can put 100% effort, but the result is still, I say, it's not actually in your hand. You just need to be the doer. So to be the doer, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. Whether it's passion, whether you're gonna call it passion soon, or whatever you're doing now that you need to do, will turn into passion. How it needs to be done with the values.
Right. Like for me, right, it can be both, and the percentage it evolves according to the time. There will be a certain moment in life you have the space to focus on your passion. There will be a certain moment in life you got to reduce that passion part and you got to do what is needed. Okay, so it's a balance of both, and according to time. But one most important element which I would like to remind is there's always a painful, hard journey behind every successful story. Now forget about human beings, let's take Swami as a whole. He has done so many things, but you and I knows the amount of pain that he has gone through from childhood, even up to the time that he exit. His health, everything deteriorated, but till the very last moment he was coming for bhajans, he was showing up, you know, doing things. So there is a pain which we have to embrace upon. We cannot neglect that. Just because, this is the tricky part, just because we are a Sai devotee or we are a spiritual guy, doesn't mean that you can escape the cycle of life. Doesn't mean that you can escape the painful moment. Bhagavan himself have gone through that pain. We can see it. He has how shall I say, he has presented it out so clearly without telling, this is life. You know, from day one, from the time he was born, I believe you all know he went through so much of challenges before he established his avatar. Then after the time, the moment he was withdrawing, right, he cannot come, you know, he will still come in the wheelchair. Why does he even have to do that? In that pain and all, he still does his duty, his darshan, you know, all these things. That's painful thing, you know. And I think you guys know that the time that he fell, he has fractured, and there was a time that he take on the pain of a snake. I don't know whether you all remember, there was one story that during towards Swami's one of the functions, I'm not sure what, a lorry went to the snake, and he will show behind that the print.
He's bleeding.
He's taking the pain. So we have to embrace that. Pain is always there. So whether it's passion, doing the right thing and all, there's always a pain element there. Because after the pain element comes the brightness. You know, the tricky part here is when we have day and night, right? So when we say day, what we say? Normally when the sunlight comes up brighter, it's day. But the actual logic, if you see, your day starts at 12 a.m. It's dark. From 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. it's dark all the way before the sunlight comes in. So whenever you are doing something, it's always dark in the beginning. It's always clueless. It's always painful. Eventually, you'll see the sunlight. So that's what I always embrace upon. Okay.
Interesting thought about the day, when the day begins, sunlight. Yeah. So I think we can conclude by saying that no matter if you follow your passion or doing the right thing, if you're following your passion, it's important to follow your passion in the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're following, doing the right thing, what's needed at the moment, it's also important for you to find passion to do what is.
Correct.
So it kind of like correlates with both.
Correlates
There's no
to both.
saying about which one is better,
Which one is
higher.
exactly.
Whichever path that you follow, it's
Yes.
important to have both elements inside that.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so thank you so much, Anas, for joining.
Welcome.
I think we had a very fruitful discussion today.
Sai Ram.
So, Sai Ram, thank you.
Sai
Anas.
Ram,
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank
In fact,
you.
I must say that I discovered what I thought I don't know from this discussion itself. I thought passion and what need to be done is a far topic for me, but this discussion have helped me a lot, and I hope we all will benefit together from whatever Swami has passed to us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's like a refresher course for me. So many things is like, You're telling so many experiences. Nice, la. Thank
Right,
you.
okay,
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Sairam, thank you for our viewers
Sairam.
who've been following for the past hour or so. So thank you so much. Till the next episode. This is Harvin signing off for Chai with Sai. Sairam.
Sairam. Sairam.